And the main message that Jesus preached to the religious people of his day, these groups, was the longest and most public of all of his teachings. In fact, his sermon that addresses them is 3 chapters long. It's the longest recorded message of Christ in the Bible. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. And that is where, if we analyze it, Jesus said a religious person of the day, believing and obeying the Bible selectively, would come to some painful conclusions if they continued to read and interpret and follow the Bible selectively, either by their revered teachers or for their political agenda or for their aesthetic agenda or for their amalgam blending agenda of trying to belittle the Scriptures. The dominant message of the Sermon on the Mount is that one must not find comfort merely in right theology. We could say that the Pharisees pretty much had right theology. There are many people today that have pretty much right theology. But we cannot find comfort merely in right theology, much less in contemporary philosophy. That would be the Sadducees. Or in geographic separation, the Essenes. Or in political activism, the Zealots. The Sermon on the Mount said, none of you should be comfortable. You shouldn't be comfortable in your right theology or your ability to relate to society or your total separation from every known sin and sinner or your military, political, activistic nationalism. Right theology is essential. So are being contemporary with the issues of the culture. Separating ourselves from worldliness is always called for, and taking a stand on moral issues is godly. But those external things only can flow from a right internal life and attitude if they are to serve and please God. That has always been God's way. As God told Samuel, God does not see as man sees. Man looks at the outward, but the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16:7. Well, when the Pharisees with whom Jesus was having lunch were bothered, remember once he didn't follow one of their revered teachers' add-ons about washing from the tips of the fingers to the elbow and dripping water down so that the water would run down the arm and drip off the fingers. And you had to do it that way. And they would hold their arms up and they would pour water and it would drip down. And it just must have been really a show to see. When the Pharisees saw that they were really bothered, Jesus didn't pour the water down his arm like they did. And they said, you're not clean. And this is what Jesus said in Luke 11:39. Now you Pharisees have the habit of cleaning the outside of your cups and dishes, but inside you yourselves are full of greed and wickedness. You are fools. Did not the one who made the outside make the inside too? But to dedicate once and for all your inner self, at once you'll have everything clean. Jesus spoke to them and to every sect of Judaism that day. He said, don't merely be concerned about your activism or your separation or your doctrine or your contemporary whatever. Be concerned about your heart. As grace-energized believers, Titus 2:2 says, we're to be sound in faith. And when we look at the errors of the Sadducees, we see a common element with what we're facing today. So just zero in on the Sadducees, the ones who were syncretistic, the ones who were blending, the ones who were trying to be contemporary, the ones who were trying to kind of relate to the Greeks by embracing their philosophies and relate to the Romans by embracing their philosophy. Think of that concept. They modified God's word by adding pagan philosophies and secular ideas to the Bible. They modified God's word by whole sections that they said doesn't mean what it says. We don't have to believe that. This blending of non-truth with God's truth, called syncretism, was deadly. And the Sadducees probably got the strongest damnation words from Christ as he spoke to them about their end.